if you'd have told me 20 years ago I'd see children walking the streets of our Texas towns with green hair, bones in their noses, I just flat out wouldn't have believed you.
Signs and wonders. But I think once you quit hearing sir and ma'am, the rest is soon to follow.
Well, it's the tide. Yeah. It's the dismal tide. It is not the one thing.
Not the one thing.
No Country for Old Men is the 12th film from brothers Joel and Ethan Coen, and one of their most bleak. A story of death and violence spilling out across the hills of southwest Texas, No Country turns down the comic volume on the Coens' canon, only to turn up the existential angst. The movie essentially asks, what can stand firm in the face of sin's dismal tide? Hello, I'm Josh Larson, editor and movie critic over at thinkchristian.net. For the past couple of months, we've been looking at Coen Brothers films through an Old Testament, New Testament framework. In our first two online discussions, I proposed that Fargo was more of an Old Testament film, while O Brother, Where Art Thou was more of a New Testament one, and we enjoyed some spirited debate around both. Now, what about No Country for Old Men? What does the 2007 Best Picture winner have to say about things like law and covenant, gospel and grace? Let's take a look. Admittedly, this Old Testament, New Testament framework we're using is imperfect. If not applied carefully, it might seem to be pitting one testament against the other. That's certainly not our goal. And I think No Country for Old Men offers an opportunity to emphasize the promise of the Old Testament, as well as the goodness of the law. Anchoring the film are two figures who stand as polar opposites. Tommy Lee Jones' Sheriff Ed Tom Bell, a folksy old-timer who comes from a family of lawmen, and the merciless hired killer Anton Chigurh, played by Javier Bardem. Chigurh is on the trail of a Texas everyman named Llewellyn, played by Josh Brolin, who stumbles upon a stash of cash from a drug deal gone wrong, and unwisely decides to keep it. During our online discussion of O Brother, Where Art Thou, Movie Club member Scott McGee had this to say about the concept of the law in the Old Testament. If you're looking at it from a Jewish perspective, before the New Testament comes along, the law is beautiful. The law is forever, and it's beautiful. I love Scott's point, and in fact, I came across a blog post on Covenant Theological Seminary's website that was titled The Beauties of the Law. In it, Jerome Bars lays out a number of ways the law given in the Old Testament can be seen as beautiful, and it struck me that a few of these ways are reflected in No Country for Old Men. Barr's first beauty is the fact that the law reveals God's character. He writes, God's character is the basis for affirming that this is a moral universe, a universe in which there is, at the back of all things, a final distinction between good and evil, kindness and cruelty, justice and injustice, mercy and oppression, graciousness and indifference. And we see these distinctions in the characterizations of Sheriff Ed Tom and Chigurh. Consider when Chigurh breaks into Llewellyn's empty trailer and pauses to sit on his couch. The Coens depict him in the reflection of the TV as a shadowy, malevolent figure. Contrast that a few scenes later with Ed Tom in the trailer, having just missed Chigurh. He sits in the same spot, also reflected in the television, but with the light filtering through his hat in a way that makes it almost look like a halo. Another beauty of the law suggested by Barr is this. God's commandments set the definition for our lives. Again, this can be thought of in terms of a dichotomy. The law draws a line between the chaos of evil, as represented by Chigurh, and the order, the rules and regulations enforced by Ed Tom. I would add to these beauties another Old Testament concept, that of the covenant. Across the Old Testament, God keeps his promise to the Israelites that he will be their people, no matter how many times they fall away. Even in the face of encroaching evil, this is what Ed Tom, whose family has upheld the law throughout generations, promises to do too.
What is it Torbert says about truth and justice?
Oh, we dedicate ourselves daily anew. Something like that.
I'm going to commence dedicating myself twice daily. Might come to 3 times before it's over with.
And so if you think of the law as beautiful, it's possible to see No Country for Old Men as an Old Testament film, one that speaks to that beauty, even amidst considerable bleakness. But what do you think? Is there any way No Country for Old Men is a New Testament film? How does Sheriff Ed Tom compare to Police Chief Marge Gunderson? And what do we make of Ed Tom's dream, which ends the film? I'm eager to discuss all of those questions and more when we get together for our next virtual gathering of the TC Movie Club. That will take place at 2 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, February 27. We're trying something different, an afternoon gathering this time. So 2 p.m. Central, February 27, club members will receive an official invite and link via email. If you haven't joined the club yet and you want to do that, you can sign up easily at thinkchristian.net/movieclub. Thanks for watching. I'm eager to talk to you soon.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
Call it.